Today I will be doing my reader response. Here are my notes. So for the first story, I will be starting off with The Swimmer by Chevers. So in the story, it is about a man named Nettie Morrill. He is a suburban man, and so he decides to swim in a chain of like the neighborhood pools for like an adventure. And so at first it was very joyful, very fun for him. And eventually the pools started to become empty. His neighbors kind of started to get distance from him. And he realizes that time has gone by because his friends have moved on. His family has started to die out. And once he gets to like his house, he realizes that it's empty. And that kind of made me sad because, even if like he was going through a time of his life, like his friends should have not like moved on from him like that. And so even though trying to pretend everything is fine doesn't change the fact that things still go on. And I feel like that's what Nettie was trying to do, was trying to kind of fake everything, and then eventually kind of caught up to him. And so, yeah, I do still think that this story is irrelevant because it is about denial, loss, and grief. And people experience that every day with friendships, family members, even with animals, every day. So for my next story, I will be doing Separating by John Updike. So this story is about Richard and Joan. They are a married couple with kids, and they're planning to tell their kids that they're separating. So in this story, I feel like it was like a pressure to like maintain their appearance. And so I feel like that's kind of like what made them be unhappy, because like society kind of forces us to, like, I know like some married couples that are just together just because they had kids, or just because they don't want to get divorced. And it is kind of sad, and it made me just feel kind of sad for the kids, because making a connection to my life, I went with a girl at my school who she was dealing with divorce with her mom and her dad, and that kind of made her depressed. And so it's kind of a bad situation, a sad situation. But I do think that this story is irrelevant because this is like an everyday thing. People are together just to say that they're together, or just to keep up an appearance, just because society pressures them, or tradition, culture, religion, whatever it may be. For my final story, I will be doing The Magic Barrel by Bernard Malamud. This story is about Leo. He is a young rabbi student who has devoted his life to studying. I had to do my research on that, the rabbi student. I found out that is like a religious leader. And so he's devoted his life to studying, and so now he's like emotionally empty. So he meets with this salesman, and a salesman is like a matchmaker in the story. And so this salesman finds all these women for him, and none of the women that he's met are good for him. Well, I'm not gonna say good for him, but he just doesn't really connect with them. And then eventually he sees this picture of this woman named Stella. She has a very complicated background, but he feels something like emotionally with her rather than the other women. And so that just made me really happy for him, because at first in the beginning of the story I was kind of sad for him, because you know he had kind of like devoted his life to like this thing, so it's kind of like he cut everybody off just to be devoted to this one thing. And so like now he's like emotionally like lost in life because he doesn't have anybody. And then eventually he does get someone, which that's what made me happy for him. And so this story, I feel like this story is irrelevant because people do go through this, like being with a certain someone just because of like their status or how they may look, and they actually don't love them. And that it's kind of sad, you know, when you think about it. But or tradition or religion, but I really like this story because at the end it was a happy ending. So I liked all three of these stories, and